Alright, so today's been really slow. We've been trying to fish the rig, see if we can get some snapper or maybe a out-of-season grouper. But what I'm going to go ahead and do today, since it's been really slow, is fish sabikis. The big pilchard run and the big bait run is really happening right now in Tampa Bay. So what I'm going to do is catch a whole bunch of these guys, get them home, and then I'm going to chop them up and freeze them. That way I can make my own chum. These are big greenback pilchards. These things are awesome bait. They're good for kingfish, snapper, grouper, but the best part is they're nice and oily. So once you make chum out of them and you put them and freeze them in those blocks, once you start melting it, everything's going to start coming into your slick. It really makes fishing in the long run easier. So if you have a crappy day and the bait's out, you might as well make good use of your time. So when you get fresh bait, so live shrimp, anything else like that, and you want to reuse it, after you cut it up and you get ready to freeze it, you want to make sure that you freeze it in salt water. If you freeze it in fresh water, what it's going to do is it's going to break down the meat and make it soft and make it mushy. When you freeze it in salt water, it hardens it and makes it tough. Alright, so what I'm going to do, just cut these down in pitch bait size chunks.
Do you want to vary your size?
You really don't want to vary the size with these. Usually about an inch across with these pilchards is what you're looking for. You can leave the heads whole, that really doesn't matter. Because what you're going to be doing with these is just pitching them back behind the boat when you're anchored, or if you're next to a marker or a buoy. Just bigger strike pieces to get the kings and the Spanish mackerel in. Just kind of creating a bigger food trail that the small chum blocks won't do. So what I'm using to do the cutting with today, this is a large staking knife. It's got a really heavy back, curved blade. This is actually an offshore angler knife. These are really sharp knives. They hold the edge really well. And the best part about using a good stiff knife, especially when you're doing pinfish and mullet and all these random fish, is it goes right through the backbone. So that way you're not sitting here and sawing on it and everything else like you would with a cheaper, smaller knife. The pilchards that I'm using are in the herring family, and if you take a look at the meat, you can see that it's actually kind of gray. They got a pretty large bloodline. These are actually really oily fish, so they dispense a lot of scent. It helps out if you're making a chum line to have something that's going to put off a large scent. Pinfish really don't disperse. They're not as oily, and what you're looking for is a greasy, oily fish. These things are awesome bait for really anything down here where we're at. And not to mention, when you're using chum like this, when you're doing a big bait block like this and you freeze it in salt water, once it's over the side, you start throwing everything over. This is really convenient. If you have kings or Spanish back in the slick, you can just literally reach in, grab one of these, put it on your pitch rod, throw it back. You've already got bait that's cut. You don't have to worry about it being soft and mushy because you freeze it in salt water. So that tends to help out. It's a big time saver. If you take a little time now, then once you actually start fishing your tournament, or you're just going out for a day on the water with the family, it's great. And then on top of it, you don't have to pay for bait on your next outing because you took the time to take care of what you already caught. So this is what you get once everything's cut up. This is about 20 pilchards, one big mullet, a few pinfish, and this really is enough to get a whole morning going for fishing, especially once you're starting to chum slick. And like I said earlier, you want to freeze them in salt water. So this is just the water, the fresh water that I put in to the live well right before we left the boat ramp. And you want just enough to cover the fish. So something like that. You don't want it all the way up to the top, just enough to cover it. And once I get it to the freezer, I'll bring it, wedge a couple ice blocks next to it. I'll probably put a trash bag over it to keep the smell down. And when you do this, you need to do it in a deep freeze, something that gets below 32 degrees. So I've got my freezer set to the coldest it'll get, so that's about -4. So this will freeze up nice. That way, whenever it's set and good to go, I'll grab it, throw it in the cooler, drop it in a big chum bag, start thawing it out, and start putting big chunks over the side of the boat. Thanks for watching. If you like it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, find me on Facebook, Saltdown.